So he's at Mike. He's about to plug, and he's already getting a running start. And this is like, I think, in the spring scrimmage. And the quarterback didn't even fake collapse. So he had a full running start at the center. And the center just, Ricky! Boom, 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 boom. It just got murdered. It was so bad, dude. I just was playing because I love the game. And it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Below 6 in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
And who do y'all play? Who do y'all play this week? Another out of state from Arkansas?
Alabama, Thompson.
Alabama. Are they
Really
public or private?
They're public. They're a really good team.
It's good that y'all are challenging yourself.
Number 1 defensive end in the country. One of the top safeties in the country. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, the DN looks like an avatar. Compared to everybody else. I mean, dude, he's 6'6", 245. And they put him at Mike a couple of times and did Mike plug. And the poor quarterback, at least fake clap. Because so he's at Mike, he's about to plug, and he's already getting a running start. And this is like, I think, in the spring scrimmage. And the quarterback didn't even fake collapse. So he had a full running start at the center. And the center just, Ricky! Boom, 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 boom. It just got murdered. It was so bad, dude. I was like, I told her, hey, man, if you let that guy go on a running start against us, you'll never play again. So
for 2 reasons. Either because I told you to, or you'll be so injured your parents won't let you.
Correct. So, yeah, that's what we got this week. So we go from one team that just had 33 transfers to now the best team in Alabama. So that's good.
Yeah, that's real good.
Yep.
Well, our season's starting, you know.
As I say, y'all start this week.
Yeah, we scrimmaged this past Thursday, and now it's officially game week, baby. Battle of
Who
the
y'all
Rebels. Or the Ore City Rebels.
Ore City?
Yeah. It's another one of those where you're like, where? Huh? What?
Like population 12.
So funny thing, they actually used to be like a 3A. So
oh wow.
So they'll bounce. Shoot. We're stuck right there. Like unless something crazy happens with like the 7A realignment and all that.
Yeah.
We're pretty like Rivercrest is pretty much always going to be 2A Division 1.
Right.
Which is, you know, for the area and like the competition is right where they need to be anyway.
Right.
But yeah, new head coach, you know, go through the whole process and like the off season. It's like build your non-conference, non-district schedule. Like got to have a guesstimate of how many district games you think you're going to have. Built out this district schedule. We got 4 district or non-district games, and 3 of the 4 teams have new head coaches.
Oh wow.
So it's like, and they all happened after I scheduled them. So it's like, you know,
yeah.
the downtime of the off season, you're like, all right, let me research them a little bit, try and get a little bit of head start and we'll put our summer schedule of all that together. And then boom, boom, boom. They start like, okay, the new coach. And so now you're like trying to watch film schematically of like where they used to be, even though that was a 4A and now they're at a 2A. And so like, you know, they're not coaching with the same, they're not coaching with the same level cat. So, you know, they can't do the same things. When in reality, like that's just how coaches are, right? You're the exact same way. When the reality is that you're going to trade film and you're going to have time to watch and study and prepare. But for some reason, we think that watching 17 hours the second week of June is like quality use of our time in preparation. of kids that you'll never line up against because they were at his old school.
That's right. Hey, did you see that quote from Sean McVay the other day?
Oh, great. No.
You didn't? It was really good, and I'm going to totally jack it up. He said something along the lines, he was doing a podcast. I need to listen to it, the whole thing. But he was saying, he goes, I used to think like being able to not sleep and just basically stay up was the coolest stuff ever. And in reality, And he said other choice words. He was like, in reality, it's the dumbest thing I could have ever done. He's like, you're in the line of servicing other people and having to basically have your mind locked in 24/7. So like, you better take care of yourself first and get some sleep. Which is kind of refreshing to hear somebody at that level say that, because most people, besides Bruce Arians, are scared to say stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're not sleeping in the coach's office getting rickets, then like you're not married to the game.
I know, dude. If where's your cot? If you don't have a cot, then you're a terrible coach. I'm like, dude,
if you're not sleeping in the weight room twice a week, then you're not married to the game. Clearly,
dude. Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite stories was watching your face when we went to that Fiesta Bowl practice.
Yeah,
and it was like 6:15, and KB was like, "Yeah, Dad said, if you want to get a lift, but he doesn't want to see anybody here after 7:30." And you were like, "What?"
I was like, "Where am I?"
It's like the land of Oz. I was like, "I told you, the places like this exist. It's real. You don't have to be sleep deprived."
I remember literally thinking, "Wait, so this can be fun."
But the sun's up. Why am I allowed to go home?
Wait, you can go see your family? What does that mean?
Yeah, because I mean, yes, we were, 23, 21 in Stephenville. Like, could I operate on 3.5 hours of sleep? Yes. Should I have been every day? Absolutely not. It's like, hey guys, Thursday's our early day. We'll be home by 9:00. But you still got to be up here because we're going to have a morning walkthrough. So set that alarm for 5 a.m.
I'm all messed up, man.
I'm all messed up, man.
Hey, speaking of Tarleton, how about them getting their first dub on national television?
So I saw Witten posted something about the environment and, thanks to all the fans, but literally saw none of it. Who did they play?
They played McNeese. And so, I watched like half a quarter maybe, but like, I haven't been there since I think graduation. Yeah. Graduation. And so they panned over and showed all the campus.
Unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable. Like, apparently they're building a basketball arena that is basically going to be like an NBA arena.
I think it's called like Reisman Arena.
Makes sense. I think it looked like it was in the parking lot. Do you remember that old big parking lot back there, like right behind the field? That's where the rec fields were at.
Yeah, it
looked like it was right there. It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the first time I went back was to scout Stephenville. Stephenville was playing. I think they were playing Brownwood, and we thought we might see them in like the second round when I was at Salina. So it was like, oh, it's your bye week. Why don't you drive to Stephenville, Texas? It's only a 3.5 hour drive on a Friday night. Turn around, and go back.
Dedicated.
We did drive to Midland too. My first year, made a little day trip out to Midland, Texas.
Stupid.
But we got out there, and they were at like some of the guys on staff that I was in the Suburban with. They were like, "Hey, where should we park?" And I was like, "Well, there should be a spot right here." And we turned a corner. I was like, "Never mind. I don't know. Couldn't tell you what any of that stuff is." And that was 6 years ago. And then we went back and played. We played against Sweetwater there, and they had finished the new home side. And it was even more unrecognizable. I was like, I don't even know like where a door is, much less like what each of these buildings. I remember like the nursing building is like, that's the new building. Everyone knows that's the new building. Wow. And now there's 50 of them. I can't recognize the place from, but it is one of the, fastest growing Division I schools in the state. So it's not surprising.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. It was really cool to see those guys get a win. So shout out Tarleton State football.
Yeah, that's it. Cause that's a hard transition. Like I know, cause A&M Commerce, when, I just blanked on his name. He's at SFA now.
Colby Carthel.
When Carthel was there, they win a national championship, and see that Tarleton's made the jump, and Sam Houston and applied to make, so they're looking to make a jump up classifications, and now they're quickly realizing that it is much more difficult to be successful in that transition because it doesn't just affect football. Correct. It affects every sport. and their track team was pretty good for Division II. Had a national champion 4x1, conference champion, 2-time conference champion 4x1. It's pretty good. It's not Division I national championships. So it, you know, and that can affect, like, I think Tarleton was in a unique situation where the student body was already growing really fast and the athletics needed to catch up. And they tried to use athletics to grow the student body, which I think is a much more difficult task.
Right. I could totally agree with that.
I say that like I've been a collegiate AD and, like, you know, here's my in-depth analysis.
Do you remember in 2013 we were telling kids we're going Division I next year and we're getting all these facilities, and that's how we recruited them, and then none of that actually happened until like 7 years later.
Better. I can remember the first time you showed me the recruiting DVD video, and I was like,
well, hold on. First off, let's talk about how it was a DVD. That's how old school.
I mean, how old are you?
Right.
This recruiting video was older than Huddle. Because I'm watching it and I was like, why does that kid look so familiar? Because it says, you know, like, freshman, and they're interviewing him like, man, I can't wait. They're going to do this stuff. And he's like, well, that's our 5th-year starting quarterback. It's like, wait, it hasn't happened, but they told him it would while he was here.
That's right. That's right.
It's like, freshman Aaron Doyle.
Yeah.
That kid just graduated last spring. Why are we still showing this?
That's good. That's good.
Or getting just a random whim. Hey, we need to paint the field house. We need to paint all the walls white.
Yep.
Coach, that's a purple tee. I don't know if you know this, but we ain't got that many. We ain't got enough cans for that many coats of paint.
Nope.
Everybody's got to go through those.
Yep.
I'm not saying everybody should have to be a Division II GA, but you come out of there with knowledge and experiences that are invaluable.
That's right, because if you're a Division II GA, you are likely, there's a good chance you're probably running the meetings. You're also running equipment, and you're also running laundry.
Yeah, I mean, you're recruiting. You have a region for recruiting. You have a position that you coach. You have classes that you have to check. You have to do all the GA stuff plus all the position coach stuff, which is like insane. It's a lot. But that's why, like, the guys that can do it to a level of success that's, like, measurable, like, noticeable, that's the reason that they go to. I mean, I know we talked about him, but I think that's one of the reasons you see Scotty Walden. Like, if you can go be in the trenches at his age, when he was at East Texas Baptist, and be successful, like, you're wearing a ton of hats, you're juggling 1,000 different things. You have to be an elite time manager. You have to be an elite motivator on top of just being a good football coach. And, that, to me, Division III, NAIA, Division II, JUCO, like, that's trial by fire. Like, you're going to learn real quick whether or not, A, this is what you want and love, and B, if at that moment you are skilled enough, have enough tools in your tool belt to really be successful.
Yeah. Yep. You're going to deal with some coaches, too, at the Division II level. I mean, I dealt with a coach at the Division II level at Tarleton that, we were recruiting one time, and he wanted me to put all of his areas on a floppy disk. I didn't know what a floppy disk was. TK, get this on a floppy disk. I was like, what? Don't ask questions. Okay. What's a floppy disk? I had no idea. He was that old school, and I stressed over it for probably a whole week. Didn't know how to operate a floppy disk.
Yeah, because you're also the person that, like, won't ask. At that point in your life, you wouldn't ask because you didn't want to be embarrassed. Be like, what do you don't know what that is, stupid?
Yeah, I didn't want that answer. So I was like, yeah, sir. Okay, I got it. I'm good with a floppy disk. It's like, what? I got to go buy a floppy disk. Or I could put it on the drive, one or the other.
Yeah. So, or here's a flash drive. Just plug it in
right
there.
Right. It's funny.
Okay, so now that you've gone through, like, you're back in the high school ranks, back into, like, in-season, like, game week mode. What is, after you left high school, went to Vandy, came back to the high school ranks, what is the biggest change or like addition to like your game week prep, your game week like process that you brought back with you?
A ready list. Never had used a ready list before. Other people may call it something different. So I love it too. So, and I got this from Joey Lynch. He's the best I've ever been around. So essentially, it's a Google document, you know, on the drive essentially that you make, and it's like your base run, base pass, base play action pass, third down, red zone, 2 minute, 4 minute, whatever, right? And so you start working on that from day one that you're prepping for that opponent, and you're adding a lot, you're subtracting, you're operating off the ready list for everything that you do. And so like I'm watching film, and any run that I see fit, I'm putting it on that ready list. I'm also selecting the clip or clips that I like for those scout cards to use. So with people that are drawing the cards, you know, on our staff, they're also on the ready list, and they can look at that. And then so as I'm scripting, they can see that this play that I just put down, it is clip number 2 from Lipscomb 2022 versus Thompson, whoever, right? The reason why I really, really like it is because about twice a week, we'll share the ready list to the kids. So they're actually seeing the game plan as we are planning it. So they're getting more confident. But the main reason why I like it is by the end of the week, whenever you want to make your call sheet, it's already made. Like it's literally done. All you have to do is copy and paste to the call sheet template, which should already be in categorized similar to the ready list. So the way that I do mine is basically a base run, base pass, base play action side, and the other side is third down and red zone. So it's already the same as the ready list. So you just copy and paste it and it's done. Whereas before, dude, I would get on, to a Thursday or a Friday morning, and I would spend 4 hours typing in the plays that we had repped that week. It just makes it so much easier. So like my call sheet's done in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best thing I've taken. I mean, there's a ton that I've changed since I got to Vanderbilt and then came back here. So much where like it makes me feel like, dude, I didn't do anything before. Quite embarrassed. But I think when you're around like successful people and you're able to see how other people do it, you should leave in gathering new ways to do things and hopefully bettering what you're already doing. So, but that's probably the biggest thing.
The description that you just gave sounds like a simplification of like a process similar to what I do, but yours just has more like poignant steps and like check marks and things of that nature. Because I'll be honest, like, your time and experience calling plays is probably like double mine in comparison. But what I quickly learned is like my first year play calling is like, I always was enamored by Coach Browse and Coach Montgomery and KB because I just operated under the assumption that it was all up here. And 70-80% of it probably was. But just because those guys weren't holding, the Waffle House menu out there with, 400 different colors and all that, categorization doesn't mean that Leb wasn't sitting in the box with one in front of him or a GA wasn't sitting in the box with one in front of him. The arrogance that I operated with, that I would just memorize I would just have it up here. Well, even if you have the capability to do that, that does nothing for your staff. And it took me being a play caller and operating that way and then having guys ask questions that I was assuming they already had the answer to because I already had the answer to, but they weren't the one that built, the game plan or, the play call series or the situational series. They didn't do any of that. And so that was a big adjustment from year 1 to year 2, really like beginning of year 1 to like halfway, 2/3 of the way through year 2. And this year, compounding the play calling and all of that with the head coaching and the AD, year 2 of that situation has become much more about, like when I was first 7 years, the year, our time at Tarleton and then my first few years at Salina, like, because we love the game and we want to learn the game and we're decent human beings, I would always convince myself that there's no need to invest so much time into the culture, hate that word, character building, proactivity conversations. There's no need to like beat the dead horse, like meeting about meeting, et cetera, et cetera. But now I've reached a point where even if it's not tangible, even if it's not measurable, if it's not data driven, it's become very clear and obvious to me the value of those things. When you look at successful programs, they're not just successful because they have great kids and, they've got 5 Division I recruitable athletes on their 3A team, so that's why they're good. No, that's not. That may help. That may be a big boost, but they've built, they poured a deep foundation and they've built it through all of those things that may not be tangible, that may not be measurable, but they invested in them, and the measurability is coming out in wins and losses, graduation rate, GPA, community service hours, et cetera, et cetera. And the harsh reality of it is you can't look at a teenager and be like, hey, go do this. Like, hey guys, I need 5 of y'all to sign up to go work at the food bank on Saturday. You can't just randomly throw that out there and expect an overwhelming level of positive response. There'll be your 1 or 2, typical kids that are going to take care of it, but you can't expect, if you're not ingraining them with that expectation of behavior, then they're not going to have it. Just
Right.
Point blank period.
Yeah. So all that being said, what have you now changed in your game week process going into obviously a new year?
A couple of the biggest things are I'm working to balance it to not wear, the guys down, but we're meeting more as a staff. And not necessarily more, we're meeting more in depth, I should say. It's not just here's what's new, confirm we're all on the same page, how they're going to align, et cetera, et cetera. It's tomorrow's practice structure will look like this, 15, 18 hours in advance. So they have a head start in planning their individual, which I took for granted. Right. And that's nobody's fault but mine, because again, it's all up here. And if I don't verbalize what I want to be a point of emphasis, how would they know? And then the second thing being that even though we've entered game week, those human growth conversations can't shut off. I have to be efficient with my time to still pull those things in. And the kids are going to practice longer tomorrow than they have since the first week of 2-a-days. And they've got to be mentally prepared for that. And that mental preparation can't just come through in, hey, don't forget tomorrow's a hard day. There's got to be some sort of depth to that dialogue for it to sink in at all. So it's not X's and O's. It's not anything like that. It's simply trying to improve my communication and still keep those core, values or those growth expectations part of that game week process, even though at the end of the week it does affect our record and it's not a glorified practice per se.
So walk me through like a Monday, hardest day, Tuesday, easier or harder?
It's still hard, but it's easier. I saw this evolution when I was at Salina and just an assistant coach, where it was, it was mental Monday, tough Tuesday, and then polish Wednesday, perfect Thursday. Like that was the traditional structure.
Hold on. So it was tough Tuesday.
Yeah.
And what was Wednesday?
Like polish Wednesday.
Got it. And then Thursday was what?
Perfect Thursday.
I like it. It's good.
which we had. I mean, which is very similar to what we did at Baylor. Like, just bump it a day. So like Thursdays were still essentially supposed to be your perfect days because Fridays were travel guys only, essentially a walkthrough. But Tuesday was going to be, heavy mental, but it was going to be, if you were going to have a full pad practice, it was going to be on Tuesday. And like for us, it's going to be on Monday. And then we might have one on Tuesday, but as the season goes on, you're managing bodies and all that stuff. But so Monday it'll be mentally and physically demanding. Cause they're going to have a ton of new to a high school kid, new stuff, right? To me, I don't consider it new if the guys up front aren't learning anything, right?
Yeah.
If my offensive line's not learning like a new concept, the skill guys should be able, like, that's not new. It's just window dressing.
Yeah.
But they're going to learn all that new stuff that they haven't done. And then they're also going to have to apply it to a physical practice. Tuesday, they need to prove that they've started to master it in another physical practice and then begin to manage, workloads and not taking any unnecessary thuds and all of those things as you get into Wednesday. But yours, I mean, y'all have a little bit more levity. Like you're still getting, I mean, is your weekly process or weekly, structure that's similar?
Yeah. I mean, we play on Thursday right now. So everything is pretty, like today, obviously it's Sunday, but we had a Monday practice. So basically, our Monday practice, it's helmets only, and we'll do no, sorry, it's shells essentially, but it's kind of like a best on best period. We will have we do that every single day. Basically, it's like a you march the ball every 10 yards, essentially. You go all the way down the field. That's how we start every practice. And it's all of our tempo stuff. It's just to set the tone. So we do that. And then we'll have our install for the team period, so it's like a 10-minute install for the opponent. And it's like open D&D base down plays. So we'll do that for 10 minutes. That's your normal Monday. So basically it's an hour practice at the most. Tuesday is like a literal 3-hour practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's also timeout caveat. That's a 1-hour practice of offensive only guys. Like y'all are
Correct.
two platooned.
Yeah. Correct.
So our practices are longer, but that's because like I'm doing 45 to 55 minutes of offense, and then the kids are doing 45 to 55 minutes of defense. Just two slightly different worlds of football when it comes to like the install and the teaching and all that. So back to Tuesdays.
Yeah. So Tuesdays that's literally 3 hours. The kids get here at 2:30, and they're leaving here at 6:45, 6:30. It's pretty aggressive. Some might say slightly over. And so Wednesday's the exact same thing.
As Tuesday?
Yeah. And then Thursday we have mock game. And so Thursdays essentially it's like 7-on-7. I think we have another scouted period, or 2 scouted periods actually, and then we go into our mock game, which takes like 30 minutes, and we're done. So, it's a grinder. I mean, the kids went from like an hour practice in the spring, hour and a half, to like 3-hour grinders, and I'm talking like, I mean, tomorrow's like, Thompson install, 7-on-7, scout 7-on-7. Best on best, just open field plays. That drill that I was just telling you about. 3rd down install, 3rd down versus scouts, and then all your special teams and all that type of stuff as well. So it's a lot. Which,
like, very collegiate structure, very like big school structure. Yeah. Which there's, I mean, obviously value and benefit to all of it. Full disclosure, don't ever think that like, just because we don't do it doesn't mean I don't see the value in it. we just, like I was saying, live and operate in different football worlds in the sense that there is no chance I could do a good on good period open field because they'd be playing against air. Because it's, I got 5,
Right.
6, 7 on any given week, 8 kids that start both ways. Which is why I feel like we have to be a little bit more creative and obviously condense some of the install, week to week game adjustments, but also be mindful of, they still gotta bang shoulders a little bit earlier in the week you can't lose that. I think there's a lot of value in continuing in that consistency, without pushing it too far to where it becomes detrimental to the personnel, to the team, this, that, and the other.
Yep.
I've talked to 6A coaches that, they do the draft when kids are incoming freshmen. Offensive staff gets first and second pick. So like the spring of their 8th grade year, they'll bus them up to the high school for spring practice or whatever.
Yeah.
And the offensive staff gets the first and second pick, and then defense gets the next like 11 or 12. And then from there, offense gets like 5 or 6, and then they start alternating. And whatever that kid is, 90% of the time, that's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the value in doing that, if you do something, is it Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule?
Mm-hmm.
That's where that comes into play. When you have a structure, you have the depth that allows you to build that. But when you're at a school that your incoming freshman class, your 8th graders is bringing 8, 10, 15 football players, there's not really a point.
Yeah.
They've got to learn to do it all. And they, with great enthusiasm, right? Then no one's upset about that. It's just situations are situational, and
Correct.
You've got to be able to adapt to what your structure can handle. You can't make, I couldn't have come here with a pre-existing 4A process and shoved that square peg into that round hole and then just expected perfect, efficiency.
Right.
Right. And so it creates not problems, but just unique situations that you work through and you find what's best for you. And that's what I think is very interesting about the hiring process when bigger schools that are trying to make a big change, they hire maybe a smaller school guy who's been successful at a smaller school. Did you make sure in that conversation that his process can fit the change in dynamic and the change in program size, expectations, resources, etc.? I think it's easier to adapt up. I think it's much more difficult to adapt down, to go from 5, 6A coordinator, head coach, and then come down to a small school and immediately hit the ground running with a easy, streamlined approach.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, because you
hold
think about it.
on. Well, yeah, dude, you're so far away from it.
Sorry. Yeah, because if you think about it, like if you're at a lower school or a smaller school, like you're doing everything yourself. So it's way easier to once you actually realize you have resources at a bigger school to be like, oh wait, you can do this for me. You got it. Whereas the other way around, it's like you've had it handed to you or you've had it delegated your whole life. And all of a sudden now you got to do it yourself. I mean, there's no delegating anymore. It's like now you actually have to boots on the ground, deep into the weeds, do it yourself. So and there is no experience besides the experience that can get you prepared for that.
Dude, non-football related, I remember it was like my first or second month out here. And the head softball coach at the time was like, we had gotten a ton of rain. Shocker, East Texas, ton of rain. And there were some standing water spots on the softball field. And she said, I've got to go, suction the water off the field and try and get this ready to practice. And it was kind of a leading statement. And I said, well, do you need any help? She was like, I absolutely, I could use some help. So I go out there and I'm an idiot, whatever. I've got on workout shoes and like shorts. She comes out of like the storage closet in, muck boots and like rain pants. And I was like, no turning back now, but I'll never wear these shoes again. And we're just sitting there, suctioning water off the field, putting it in paint buckets and throwing it over the fence. And I look down at the end of the day, at the end of the whole thing. And yes, we've removed a ton of water, but I've lost my balance and my shoes got stuck in the mud a couple times to where I've just pushed these like dents into the curtain of the softball field. I was like, hey, that's my bad. We're gonna need a little bit extra fill in dirt right here. That's all me though. I'll learn from it. I'll be better next time.
That's a whole different world.
Yeah, but
it's cool.
So last week introduced the quick six world to Parker, and a lot of people that know Kelly and I and know Parker were very unsurprised by the story. But I told you I wanted it to be something to where, laugh at my pain weekly.
Yeah.
So this one didn't happen this week. It happened a couple weeks ago, but it is a story that the world deserves to hear. It was towards the end of summer before 2-a-days started. Kelly and I had a weekend plan to go spend in San Antonio with some friends. We went and saw Joe Rogan live, the Netflix special. It was awesome, but we were going to dump the kids off with Kelly's parents, with my in-laws, and then head south down 35. And Kelly's car starts acting up. I told you a little bit about that. But that was not, this story's about Parker, as most of our days are all about Parker. So the car starts acting up and we get off the interstate. They needed to eat, so we go to Chick-fil-A. And Kelly and I are on the phone. We're trying to figure out where to go, what next steps are. And, we're filling the kids full of, Chick-fil-A nuggets and waffle fries. They finish eating. No solution has come to us. So, hey, y'all go play in the playpen. And Lane, my oldest, she's 12, was keeping an eye on him. And I'm on the phone trying to figure this thing out. Lane comes out, goes to Kelly and says, Mom, I think some kid pooped in the slide. And right about that time, Parker comes down the slide. And it was Parker. Parker had pooped in the slide.
Oh.
Kelly freaks out. Obviously, very embarrassing. Hate to see it. Parker had also demanded that she wear her pink rain boots that day because she was going to her grandparents' house and needed her rain boots. Kelly goes, picks her up off the slide. Parker she had little bubble guts. Kelly goes to pick her up, looks down, and the rain boot is full. So she's like, carrying her out like a lost puppy, arm's length. Takes her in, does the sink bath, yada yada. About that time, Kelly had gotten the information. We were like, hey, I don't know if you probably want to shut this down. It's dirty. Kid had an accident. We're cleaning up our part if you want. And the woman that was receiving this information just smiled and nodded. And we just go back to trying to solve one crisis. Kelly's in there, gets her cleaned up, gets a diaper on her, and like rinses out the rain boot, and has given me the heads up that like when I walk out this door, we're 86 out the gate. Like we're in the car and we're either going somewhere else or we're going to like Dallas. We're solving this problem or we're going to ruin another fast food restaurant because we can't stay here. And so we load up, get on the road, and the last thing Kelly tells me about the whole thing is she says that Parker was unfazed the entire time, thought it was the funniest thing in the world. She was cleaning her off, and she just looked at her and goes, Mama, I farted, and it all came out.
Oh, my God.
So the moral of that story is, despite what we did in the 90s and early 2000s, parents, don't ever let your kid play on one of those play slides.